Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of the Black Scientists Cooperative. We are so excited to have the next version or next continuation of our new series, The Science of Beauty. We are happy to welcome a very special guest this evening, Ms. Tracy Blackburn. She is a PA in dermatology, and she has done some amazing things over the course of her career. She's done medical mission field trips for dermatology. She's also done some work with Girls Who Rule the World, Stephen Marjorie Harvey Foundation. And she's also an author. She's written books about dermatology and dermatological diseases or different things in children. So welcome, Tracy. So happy to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Great. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Tracy, can you tell us a bit about how you came to get into dermatology and into this field?
Absolutely. You want the short story or the long story?
Give our viewers all of it, Tracy.
You want all of it?
All of it.
Okay. Well, actually, when I was 19, I graduated from the medical assisting program. So I actually graduated overseas out of high school. So I was a little bit behind in regards to getting into colleges or getting the materials that I needed, and pretty much kind of self-navigated my way into college. I don't feel like I had like the guidance that a lot of our teens have today, but I am definitely blessed as it came out well. But so 19 is when I graduated from medical assisting school. And upon graduation, my program director said, I don't want you to stop here. I want you to keep going. And she actually said, you think about medical school. And I was like, I never grew up saying I wanted to be a doctor or anything like that. I said, I don't know. I said, a lot of people in my family are medical, but nobody's actually a doctor. So not that I had a fear, I just didn't I didn't know where to go. So she said, well, what about the PA program? And I said, didn't know about that. So I looked into the PA program, and again, putting myself through school, it took me a couple of years to actually get into the program, finish the program. During that time, because of school, I was working 3 jobs to support myself while getting my prerequisites. And of course, with stress, a lot of things happen to our bodies. And I started to lose my hair, a condition called alopecia areata, where you get bald patches in your scalp and your hair. And so I started to visit a dermatologist literally every month to get injections into my scalp. And I just was so fascinated with what they did, how they worked, and just became more and more interested in the dermatology space. When I went to school, fast forward in PA school, I actually thought that I wanted to do orthopedic surgery, but I could not stand in an OR for 6 hours. Found out I was a little claustrophobic. But I love procedure. I love procedures. I work with my hands. I learn through my hands. So when the dermatology component of school came up, it was like second nature to me. Just knowing that I can do my procedures, and also knowing that our skin is like the window into our bodies, right? Like what goes on inside of our bodies usually is evident on the skin, and vice versa. So it just comes as second nature. I love it. It's like a puzzle to me in regards to skin conditions and having to put those pieces of puzzles together. So you're literally like an investigator. And I love making people happy. And although there are chronic diseases out there, just knowing that a patient is very happy knowing that you are there to help them through their journey, and you're on the journey with them. Our skin is our largest organ on our body, and it protects everything inside of us. So we have to protect it. And so that's how I got into dermatology.
Well, Tracy, that is an amazing story. I mean, it really is. It's one of like resilience and, self-motivation. And I'm so glad that our viewers are getting to hear from you because, you basically made a way for yourself. You worked your way through school. You didn't let any obstacle stop you. And that's really inspirational and admirable.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about the difference between medical and cosmetic dermatology? Like, what's the difference?
Absolutely. So your medical dermatology is going to be those common conditions and also chronic diseases that are out there. So of course, everybody is familiar with like acne, eczema, or what we call atopic dermatitis, psoriasis. But even, I mean, derm is the study of hair, skin, and nails. So it's hair loss, it's brittle hair, it's, nail fungus, it's the divots in your nails. There's cutaneous lupus, cutaneous sarcoid. So those are your medical dermatology, but we cannot forget our moles, right? Because one of the things that is a very common thing as a preventative health visit for the dermatologist office is getting an annual skin check. So we do check your moles, those growths on your skin, just to make sure that they're not precancerous. And that is covered by insurance. And so that is encompasses the medical dermatology. And I'm sure there's a lot of things, but those are going to be your main common ones. Cosmetic is when you come in for that annual skin check and your hand is on the door and you're like, okay, have a good day. We're about to go now. And there's like, but wait, I wanted to ask you about these wrinkles. Yeah. So that's another 30 minutes. All right, let's get into it.
That'd be me.
So, or the skin tags, or, so any cosmetic is those things that are not going to be covered by insurance most of the time. Most people are coming in for, number one, hyperpigmentation, skin discoloration, fine lines and wrinkles. Oh my God, I don't like my pores, hair loss in the eyebrows. People want their eyelashes to grow. And then you say, my face is falling down, so we need to pick it back up, laser hair removal, actually liposuction started, I believe, in dermatology, so it's unwanted, skin, the way the skin hangs or is, little pocket cellulite, all those things that we look at ourselves and we're like, if we could just fix this, most of those things are going to be cosmetically related.
So, we're always talking about, well, not we, but in general, you always hear, well, Black doesn't crack it. We don't need all of that. How common is it amongst Black folks to use cosmetic dermatology? Is it more common than we think?
Y'all see me frowning? Let me tell you, it is here. It is here. It is becoming more and more talked about. It still is not, a lot of my patients are not very open to sharing that they are getting, procedures done. I tell my patients, I'm like, yeah, you've heard Black don't crack, but it will sag and it won't crinkle, right? So the thing with, as we mature and as we, I like to say, get wiser, right? We know that we're going to get some bone loss, and that bone loss is going to come right here in our cheeks, right? It's going to come here in our temples. You notice that the eyebrows, start to kind of get a little bit lower. And also this space in between the nose and the lip that becomes longer. And it's just because you don't have the structure that you used to have. The fat pads, or, the plumpness, or what we call like our apples here, those fat pads start to slide down our skin. That's universal. Okay. Now, sometimes, of course, in some people, it doesn't happen as fast. That would be us. It doesn't happen as fast, right? But it eventually will happen. And a lot of times we'll get the jowling here, but it's because our bone is kind of, regressing and everything is kind of just sliding down. So we need to tack it back up, right? And so that's where people start to ask those questions. The most common one is going to be the parentheses or the nasolabial folds, right? And where we used to kind of go right to there and put filler in, we're like, nope, we have to tack up the foundation to give you back your lift. That way you don't have to look like a chipmunk, right? When people are saying fillers and all of those things, you don't have to look like that, because you just need to restore what we have naturally lost over time. But yeah, black don't crack, but it will sag and it will, it will crinkle. And those are little things that we can kind of help a little bit, and it takes a long time, where I see some, of our Caucasian, women are getting things done at 22 and 23, where we're starting to ask around maybe 35, 40, and also our lifestyles are different. We're working out more, our bodies are stressed, our environment is different. So things start to show up a little bit sooner now than they did before, with some of our ancestors. I went on a tangent. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. You actually segue into my next question.
Okay.
One of the points you just made was that when more of our the white women ask for these things at an earlier age than Black women, I was going to ask: is there really a difference in the skin between Black and white people?
Yes.
And why that's so?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yes. So, it has a lot to do with definitely our skin tone, how much, we have definitely we all have melanocytes, right? But it's just the type of melanocytes we have and how, the size of the melanocytes. So in darker skin tones, our skin tends to be a little bit thicker, but we also are more prone to dryness, in lighter skin tones or Caucasian skin, their skin may be a little bit thinner and they may be more prone to having that wrinkling and crinkling a little bit sooner. Because we have our melanin, in our skin, we have a natural protection, when it comes to sun exposure. However, we still get sun damage. It just shows up a little bit later, right? And so they are more prone because they don't have that protection, and maybe they weren't, you can really tell when maybe like when a white person has maybe like a mom or a dad that had skin cancer, right? Because they're really going to be honed in on taking care of their kids' skin. And you can tell who stays out of the sun versus those who didn't have that knowledge. And I tell people, the more you know, the more you glow, because you can tell those who have really taken care of their skin. But if we don't know better, we don't do better, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. And so which leads to my next question. You're right that it wasn't talked about as much as it is now, maybe because of the, social media and everything. But I wanted to ask, is it more affordable now than it used to be years ago, since it's so common to get now?
I think prices actually have gone. It's kind of a loaded question in a way, because prices have gone up in regards to product, but then people have found other ways of getting product. Does that make sense? Right? Mm-hmm. So like, everybody feels that now they can watch a YouTube video and things like that and order from Canada or Amazon. We've actually had people come into the office and say, I need you to dissolve this. I injected myself. I got the product off the Amazon, or I got a product off from Canada. And because they don't want to pay the price for the filler or the toxin or things like that. And so you have to definitely be careful. I mean, and then there's a lot of med spas that are popping up, and, and those are totally fine because everybody wants to kind of, be an entrepreneur and work for themselves. But you have to, you want to make sure you're getting reputable product too, So in regards to it becoming more a better cost, I would say that we have better product, because when it first came out, it was about the collagen and, things that were more permanent. And now the things that we have are not as permanent, but the good thing is that some of them are reversible. Like you can actually take out some fillers, if you don't like the way it looks, or if it didn't settle right, or if it wasn't injected correctly. But when you pay for, these procedures, you're not only paying for product, you're paying for the time put in, you're paying for the professional that actually, knows, your anatomy and, cares for how your outcome comes. And then all of the other stuff like, the alcohol and the cleansers and the needles and all of that stuff. So I would say that there's a lot more out there. And, just as far as just on the market, but you have to definitely be careful as far as like what you're getting.
I just want to jump in for a second and ask, like, for the purpose of our viewers, can you tell them like what's for what? Like, so Botox is for this, fillers is for this, so
That
they
is
know, like, going into an appointment, like what they should be asking for.
Absolutely. That is an awesome question. So Botox, or what we call, toxin, because there's more than Botox out there. There's Botox, Xeomin, Dysport, Jeuveau. Those are all what we call our botulinum toxins, and they're just kind of formulated a little bit differently, but they essentially are the same. So those are things that are going to kind of freeze your muscle movements in a way. So you put it into the muscle, and what it does is it neutralizes the nerves that innervate that muscle. So it's going to be for your expressions, right? So your frown, if you're frowning, I can't frown. Surprise lines, if you're getting the forehead lines, if you're smiling and you're getting the crinkles around the eyes. Now, we've gotten really, really savvy with our toxins now, because we also know that we hold a lot of tension in our chin. So if you hold a lot of tension and you feel like your chin is dimpling, you can actually put Botox in the chin to kind of soften that. Dentists are doing this a lot, and this is how they got into the Botox field, for lockjaw or clenching your teeth. So this muscle back here is a big muscle that can definitely help so that you don't have that pain. But guess what? Now we use it to slim the face. So if you can relax that muscle, it kind of gives more of an angle. A lot of our patients of Asian descent really love that because they have more of that square jawline. You can also put Botox in your neck for the lines here. These muscles, that what they call the platysmal bands. So a lot of women who are having like aging necks, you can do that to kind of soften so that you don't have a lot of those, what we call our necklace lines, or those lines. Filler fills. So fillers, there's a lot of fillers out there. There's fillers that are what we call hyaluronic acid, which we naturally possess in our bodies. It binds to water to plump. So your filler is going to lift and contour. Filler is going to be in your cheeks, your nasal labial folds, which are like those parentheses from the nose to the corner of the mouth, what we call our marionette lines, or the jowling that we get once things start to kind of calm down. People are now starting to get jaw contour, again, because everything's coming this way. So they want to bring it back here. So you'll put filler in here just to kind of, and so they call it the liquid facelift, before you go underneath the knife. Filler is also being put in the chin for a side profile to kind of even out. And a lot of people who are starting with these, you don't have to do all of this. I give my patients a mirror and I say, what bothers you? And they'll say, this line right here. Okay, that's what we're going to start with. In order for me to treat this line, I have to support it here. We'll start with a couple of units of Botox. If they say, I don't like these lines. Okay, I understand you don't like those lines. Let's see how it looks if we do here. And you can build on this. You don't want to do a lot at one time because you do not want to regret. I tell people, I'd rather underwhelm you than for you to be unsatisfied. Because you can always come back and you can always get more, and you build to what your liking is. We all want we want natural results, right? We don't want to look like a chipmunk. We don't want to look like a blow up doll. Fillers also for lips. So that has become more and more popular in the last couple of years with our sisters, right? I'm looking at the Real Housewives of Atlanta and I'm like, she didn't look like that last time. I'm like, the gloss is one thing, but now we can't even close our mouth. And I'm like, okay, don't put no more in there, but it's because we lose that definition or we get those lines, right? And so you can actually just put a little bit just to hydrate the lips. You can put a little bit just to redistribute the border of the lips. And some people definitely just want more plumping of the lips. So it's whatever you feel like you need to make yourself happy, so you're not in the rear view mirror going like this. if this line would just go away, just maybe, you could fix that. There's a lot of things we can't fix in life. But if we can fix a little crinkle or a wrinkle or a nip and a tuck, I would say do it. Right? Yeah. Okay.
So how many, so do Black girls Botox?
Oh yeah, we do. Now, you guys ever seen that the documentary, Chris Rock's documentary, what's it called? Good Hair?
Good Hair, yep.
Right? And he was talking about how when hair weaves came out and everything like that, how people were going through back doors. And then when somebody was to touch your hair, you'd be like, it's mine. I paid for it. You was trying to cover up stuff so nobody would think that you had extensions or things like that. That's what it is. It's just like, it's something that people are usually getting, and now you're going to start looking at a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
And you're going to be like, her chin is moving differently. But it's one of those things. It's like, a lot of people are not talking about it, but I literally asked 2 of my seasoned patients, and I said, when did you start getting Botox? And one said 10 years ago. She's 60 something years old. So that means she started about her 50s. And another one said, I've been getting it for 15 years, honey. Mm-hmm. And she said, and I heard that you was offering it here. And I was like, okay, well, I hope I could just, continue the journey with you, but 10 and 15 years ago, our sisters were getting this. And did they tell y'all? Mm-mm. Nope.
So how diverse is the field of dermatology when it comes to procedures being done on Black people?
Ask the question again, I'm sorry.
How diverse is the field of dermatology when it comes to procedures being done on Black people? Like how?
I would say that it's still a majority of our, whites and even Asians don't do a lot, right? It's still the majority. We are still the minority, right? We are the minority in the dermatology world to begin with. I mean, I think dermatologists are 3%, 1 to 3% of all of dermatologists, right? Same thing with PAs that are practicing in dermatology as far as being African American. And I think that, as we are getting into this space, I can't tell you how many people, when I walk into the room, that they're relieved that it's me. And because as far as me knowing their skin and knowing, just not trying to do too much, or, knowing that I'm not going to, cause, like pigmentation issues or things like that. So I get more and more people that are asking for it, but it still is probably less than 5%, right? And it's because we don't know, or we may be a little bit, scared. But I think what happens is we all are looking at those YouTube videos and Instagram photos at between the hours of 12 and 2 at night. And we're like, what if, maybe, could I don't know.
I'm right
but
there.
It's not too diverse. It definitely is. We definitely still are the minority, but we're coming up. And I think it also depends on where we're at. I mean, Miami and LA, they're hitting it. You know what I'm saying? Midwest, we may not be, as, out there with it, but they're definitely hitting it. I think, maybe you get Botox and Brazilian butt lifts in the same visit. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say I'm right there with it. I am scared to try Botox I'm just gonna be honest, with someone that does not have a healthy knowledge of Black skin. I equate it to, like, remember back in the day, like if you went to get your hair done as a Black person at like Supercuts or at the mall, and that person tried to like blow dry your hair and do it in the nightmare.
Where they want to rewash it again and try again.
Right. The trauma. I equate the same thing to like, cosmetic derm and going to somebody that's like not familiar.
Well, I'll say this. Our muscles are the same. The way we move our muscles and things like that, it's the same. What I would say is that one of the concerns that I had a patient today, and her concern was, am I going to have a hole in my face from the injection? Am I going to have a hyperpigmentation spot? And because of how finite the needle is and how you're doing it, You do not get scars from it. Actually, there's a he's a plastic surgeon here in this Chicago, and he's the one that actually demythed that a few years ago. He wrote a book about it. I believe his name. Okay, I'll give his name out. Dr. Julius Few. He's a plastic surgeon. I think he's a patient descent, and he. I was reading some of his bio like a couple of years ago, and he actually said that he actually wrote, and I think in an article or a book about how you have to kind of get rid of those myths, because if we don't ask the questions, we don't know. So you do not get keloid scars from Botox injections or filler injections. The needle is very, very, very fine, and it's very, very minute, and it's all about the technique. So that's one thing. So if you were to go to a dermatologist that does not look like you, again, they're looking at your muscles and they're looking at your face structure. And what I would say is there are some that are heavy-handed in regards to, oh, you need 4, syringes. Tell them you don't want to do that right now, but you'll definitely come back. But if they don't explain to you why, that's where the issue is. They just want to pump the fluid, pump it in you, and then you go to the desk and you're like, oh, it's $3,000. I'm like, we didn't have that discussion. But I'll give you a reality. One syringe of filler. You guys want me to get y'all? I can get my filler if you want me to. One syringe of filler is 1/5 of a teaspoon. Okay, so when you see that in the box, I'm using it actually. When it comes in a box like this and it's one syringe, that's $800. That's 1/5 of a teaspoon. And when you see those before and after pictures, you got to read the fine print. They're using 2 to 3 syringes to get that before and thereafter. Now, whether that was in that one setting or whether they came back 6 weeks later to add more. So they should definitely tell you you're going to have a little bit of enhancement, but this, it may go down, you may want more. But when you see those before and after pictures, you are looking at about 2 to 3 syringes of filler.
And so after you it may be different responses for the different types of treatment, but how long does it last? And before I have to come back for a re-up?
Yes. So let's say like for Botox or like the toxins where you're doing to freeze the muscles, though that can last around 12 weeks. So every 3 months, right, is when you're going to get a little bit more. However, some people hold on to it a little bit longer. So some people come twice a year. Some people don't want any movement and they're like, I think I see an eyebrow moving, and they're in here 8 weeks. And and then some people just get it once on their birthday to make themselves feel good just for their birthday, or they got a vacation. So everybody's different, but most textbook you're going to see that 12-week mark. If you are very active, you work out a lot, and you have a high metabolism, you may see it kind of break down a little bit sooner. And then most fillers, depending on the thickness of it. So say if we're filling in the cheeks or we're filling in the mid cheek, can last for about a year. If we're doing fine lines like around the lips or even the lips, 6 months to a year. And there are some what they call biostimulatory fillers. You'll hear, or you may see Sculptra or Radiesse. These fillers are diluted so that you can do more of what we call a pan facial. So you're really just trying to put volume into the face, and they actually help to re-stimulate your collagen. And one of those fillers were actually made for patients who had HIV and they were on medications that caused atrophy or thinning of their face. And so it helps to re-stimulate their collagen. And so those can last for about 2 years. And then you may need a little bit of a re-up for that. But you need more product to start with. So, yeah.
And so in thinking about the products that we've been talking about, and then also thinking about earlier where you were saying that people are buying the products from Amazon and all these places and trying to inject or, do the fillers and injections and Botox all on themselves. You talked some about the anatomy, but can you help us understand these major nerves and muscles that are running through our face and why we should not be doing that, and what could be the possible outcomes of doing it really, really wrong?
Yes. So the facial anatomy is very, it's intricate, right? The main things that we worry about, well, we worry about everything, but say like if somebody, somebody who has a permanent crease here, right? We don't like to inject here because this is a major artery. Guess what? It will cause blindness, right? Then we have the infraorbital, right? Artery that's like right here, it's underneath your eyes. So everybody's getting these tear trough fillers, right? Because they don't want the bags underneath their eyes. You have to have a very specialized technique, or it definitely depends on what you're using so that when you're going in that you're missing that artery, because again, will cause blindness. You have your facial artery, right? That comes out here. So like when you're even, and then there's different branches of it. So even when you're injecting in the cheeks, it's 50, a lot of times it's 50-50 as far as like who's training the person who's injecting. Some people will say aspirate to kind of make sure that you're not in a vessel. And some people say, nope, if you're on bone, you're good. I think you definitely have to use your best judgment, but I always like to aspirate to make sure I'm in a safe zone. But they sometimes say it's a false security. Makes me feel good because I've actually put the needle right here on bone and got a flashback. So I know that if I see blood in my needle hub, I'm not going to inject there because and it could be a vein, but we're not going to take that risk. So you don't want somebody that's really fast either. You want somebody that's going to be, nice and slow, and then, looking at the contour and things like that. In the chin, you have your mental arteries, right? So you got to be careful. People want to stay very centrally located, because when you start to get out here, that's where you can definitely get into trouble. Yeah, and now people are doing the nose. I'm not even messing with that. I've never messed with it. People are injecting the temples because we tend to get hollow in this area. So we have to be very careful, right? In the temple for the temporal artery. Definitely don't want to mess with that as well. But people have techniques. They have finesse techniques. We have finesse tools. So not just a needle, but what we call a cannula. So it's blunt tip. So it just kind of bounces off of the artery and you're still able to lay the filler. So that's a safer way to do a lot of these procedures. There's now ultrasound guided techniques. So those who are highly trained will have an ultrasound guided technique that they'll use. I've been to the certificate course and was like, it was just amazing. But I don't do it enough to buy the ultrasound. So I just kind of stay in my safe zone, and I refer out when I don't feel comfortable doing something that somebody may request of me, which is going to be the middle part, the nose. I don't want to rearrange your face. I just want to give you a little bit of a lift and natural look.
So you mentioned, you stay in a safe zone. What's safe for you? So I want to get back to people doing this in groups and having these, what they call Botox parties, and having someone come in and do this, in mass. So what are some red flags that we should be steering clear of if we're invited to, say, a Botox party or some filler party or something like that? What, in your professional opinion?
In my professional opinion, and I will say Botox parties were definitely done a lot more in the past. And then it was just like, no, we're not doing them, right? And then now it's definitely on the rise because concierge medicine has definitely become more and more popular now. So with going to a Botox party, and I have done some Botox parties. I've actually done them in a med spa that I worked at. So pretty much like we kind of rented out the spa for this person's birthday. And so she brought her friends there. In that space, I was able to do whatever I needed to do because I had everything there. I would say Botox parties should be that, just Botox parties. When it comes to filler, for me, I would recommend being in a space where you're able to kind of alter your seating, the table, the lighting, like all of that stuff has to be in order, and you have to be comfortable, right? So I personally, in regards to like filler, I would say just keep it at Botox. If you were to ever go to a party, if they were offering filler, I'd probably for me, I would say I'd rather do it in an office, because again, it's all about the angle and how the patient is positioned. But I came up with 4 C's for that, that question actually. Number 1 is comfort. If you walk into the space and you don't feel comfortable, if you don't like the way the setup is or things like that, I would definitely say, just be like, I'm here for the bubbles and not the Botox, I would definitely say a thorough consultation. So that person, well, hold on, I just added another C, credentials. You want to make sure that that person is a licensed professional that is trained and certified in doing the procedures. That actually can be a registered nurse. It can be a nurse practitioner, a physician assistant, definitely, or a doctor. Not a medical assistant, not an esthetician. Okay. So comfort, credentials. The next one is the consultation. So if they are like, all right, no, you want them to actually talk to you and see what you are looking for. You want to know what your options are. You want to know the side effects, the risks, the benefits. If they're rushing through it, that's because, it's supposed to be like that. I would say no, they should take just as much time as they would in the office. And actually, maybe at a Botox party, they may take more time because people are doing their own thing. And this is like you and them in their in your space where you're comfortable. And that may be a plus, actually. And then the other would be care. So after the procedure, what are your post-care instructions, right? That is important because I tell people all the time, I'm like, I don't want you laying down for 4 hours. I don't want you changing car tires. I don't want you flying on a plane tonight. You can't put a lot of pressure in these areas. And literally, I had one of my medical assistants, we did her Botox, and then she said, I got a flat tire on the way home. She had a bulge for a good 3 weeks. In the middle part of her forehead, because she was leaning down for so long. So if you don't get that consultation and know how to take care of, your treatment afterwards, I would say that, ask questions, just ask questions. But, the plus is that for someone who may not be comfortable or are fearful of getting Botox, being in the comfort of a space with your girlfriends, you see that they get it, you see the procedure, because we're not letting 2 and 3 people come back in a room in the office. That may be something that if you wanted to try it, it may be the perfect space for you because you're comfortable and you see other people doing it. Those who are your friends, those who you trust, and I'm sure that they trust the person that's coming in. So it could be a very intimate setting, but credentials, consent, consult, care, comfort.
That's good.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I love the 5 C's. I love it.
Okay.
So what would you say to individuals or to those who might shame us if we were getting Botox or some other cosmetic procedures? What would you say to them?
Don't judge lest ye be judged. I wouldn't, you know what? I think to each his own. Everybody has something that they don't like. And, we're all looking, to kind of enhance what we can. There's, like I said, there's a lot of things that we can't control, but if there's something that we can fix that would make us happy, those people should be happy for you trying to make yourself happy. I would say, and I think that's why a lot of times people don't share what they're doing. It's because that other person may not be knowledgeable of it, and they may shame you because they don't know, the facts behind it. They've heard the myths, or they've seen the horror stories or the horror videos or things like that. And so, I would trust, you want to tell people who you trust maybe, but I don't think anybody should shame anything for the decisions that they make in their lives. I mean, and we make a lot of decisions, but it's totally up to you if you wanted to share or not,
Absolutely, I agree.
Well, Tracy, this has really been an amazing discussion and an education for me. I'm coming to see you. But, you know, I have to put my Botox and fillers on layaway at those prices. So
I think
Don't
we
come
all
to me with no, I only got enough for, what can you do for $4? No,
right.
you be like Chris Rock
35.
in what's that, New Jack City? You be like, how much for one rib?
Right.
handful
Right.
of them.
How much for one cheek? How much for one cheek? But oh my gosh, we have enjoyed you on this evening. Can you just tell our viewers, one, where they can find you? Two, we mentioned earlier that you are also an author. Tell our viewers a little bit about your book and where they can find it. And three, just close us out with anything we may have missed.
Absolutely. So I do have a profile on Instagram. Actually, I have 3, but I'm taking a break because I'm actually in school. So I'm actually getting my master's degree in integrative medicine so that I can do more integrative dermatology, which is going to be more nutrition based and more natural healthcare. And I call integrative medicine more all-inclusive medicine because you just want to kind of pull from different sources for the health of the patient, right? Or for that best outcome. So it's an Instagram. It's going to be at Tracy Blackburn, and that's just my name, Tracee, Blackburn, Blackburn. I am on Facebook, Tracy Blackburn, LinkedIn as well. Couldn't keep up with Twitter. And I have written 3 children's books, actually. So my first children's book is, it was actually Wally the Wart. And it was about common skin warts that kids get. And Wally the Wart can be found on Amazon.com. And the next one was eczema, and that's spelled Xzema, eczema, because we're trying to X out eczema. And it's Eczema, A Children's Guide to Happy Skin. And that is also on Amazon.com. Now, those books are going to be under my previous married name, which was Douse Dean. So it's going to be DOUSE-DEAN. I am now Tracy Blackburn, and I am not paying for republication. Okay. And the other book actually was definitely a blessing, because I will say the 2 books that I did before I self-published, it started as a coloring page for the kids that I would treat in the office. I literally just wanted them not to be scared of their treatments, and just to kind of give them something to do. And then somebody, you know, it was just too much to put on one page. So I called the publishing company, and they said, we're having publish 1 book, get 1 for free. And I'm like, okay. So it just came out of me. So I wrote those 2 books within about maybe 6 weeks or so. And self-published those. And so literally my royalty checks, I love when I get them. They're all of 3 cents. So the last one was 0.09. It was 9 cents. And I prayed over it last year, actually. It was like the beginning of 2021. And I said, God, I just pray that you add the zeros on the other side of this decimal point. Mm-hmm. And literally within 1 month, I got a call from a major pharmaceutical company. Actually, no, this was a headhunter. And she was just like, I saw on Instagram that you wrote children's books. I have a partner that I'm working with, and they would like to write a children's book about eczema. And I thought it was a scam. When I tell you, she hit all my email addresses, Instagram, LinkedIn, and I was just like, okay, lady, I'm gonna talk to you. And they put the zeros on the other side of the decimal point.
Oh, right.
And it was, I was like, wow. So that is called My Excellent Day at Camp. And you can actually, it's a free ebook, and you can actually find it on understandad.com. So understand AD stands for atopic dermatitis, which is AKA eczema, and it's .com. And you can click on there and just read the book. And it's fun summer, well, for summer camp, because that's where most kids have their issues with their eczema. Okay. I think we mentioned this was so fun because it was literally like I had like a consult, and I'm animated like this in my patient visits. So, you know, and that's why I'm in integrative dermatology now, because I have the time to speak to my patients. Mainstream derm, you see 5 to 6 people an hour, and it's like boom, 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 boom. But in a space where you can actually talk and, you know, answer patients' questions, that is the most important. I'm very passionate about patient education. And so my hashtag is the more you know, the more you glow, because you don't have to do a lot, and just a little dab will do you. That's it.
Well, again, thank you so much, Tracy. This has been a wonderful conversation. And I hope I know our viewers will enjoy it. And so again, guys, thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Black Scientists Cooperative. I hope that you'll come back and see us next week, and make sure you follow Tracy Blackburn on Instagram and buy her book.
Thank you guys for having me. This was amazing. You guys are beautiful. Oh my God. I hope I come back again.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Wonderful evening.
Deep flows like a breeze flowing through me, from my head to my feet. Your love runs smooth, ooh, it soothes, and you're making life bright. I'm so glad that you're mine, you're mine.